I peeled off all of the duct tape, Gorilla Tape, and trash bags, and we definitely have had some moisture in here. This press board though, these are just spacers like those there that keep it away from the box, but there's still some moisture back up here too. So we're gonna let it dry for a couple days while we're here in Massachusetts, and then we're going to cover it with the roof tape. Our first destination in Boston was the Legoland Discovery Center. Titus had saved all of his VIP points and purchased 6 tickets for the family. So what are we looking at here, Titus?
The Boston Tea Party.
Yeah, I think we're gonna visit that. Almost some sort of a alien invasion. And this is the city of Boston. Boys really enjoyed creating and racing cars on their Lego track. Titus made one built not for speed, but to use cool gears. We cheered hard for Boston because Tampa Bay is who the Mariners are competing with in the wild card race, and they had some highlights, though they didn't fare as well. But Fenway is quite the charming ballpark at over 100 years old. Boston has 4 runs right now, but the Tampa Bay Rays have 12. And on the way home, Gloria said something about make way for ducklings, which I pointed out we would not be able to get to at Boston Public Park with our tour tomorrow. So we made a detour and did it that night. Here's to baseball day games. After an early morning breakfast, armed with the Freedom Trail guide my parents gave us, we headed back to downtown Boston and out on the Freedom Trail for historic sites like the State House on land that used to belong to John Hancock, as well as the Granary Burial Grounds, where the Boston Massacre victims and Samuel Adams are. That's the Park Street Church tolling the hour at the Granary Cemetery. And we visited the gravestone of Mary Goose, whose nursery rhymes were famously published. And this is the old State House, where Otis's oratory famously started the spirit of the revolution 15 years before it ever happened. It's also the site of the Boston Massacre and holds the balcony from which the Declaration of Independence was read to Boston. Nothing like a lion and a unicorn. And the one place we got to go in was the house of Paul Revere. And we made it from Boston Common to the Old North Church. And Joey's super excited about getting to the Old North Church. Why, Joey? Because now he gets to ride in the wagon back to Boston Common. We used the parking garage at Boston Common instead of riding the MTA. Why?
Because the MTA is expensive.
Because there's an old song about the MTA featuring a fella named Charlie who never got off. And it turns out they sell Charlie cards so that you can ride the MTA. Every night I use the Hop Pot and the AeroPress to make some coffee for the thermos, which then gives me hot coffee in the morning and saves time. But I've finally run out of my Eatonville coffee. So we're making the shift. I was getting low, so I picked up some Tim Hortons when I was in Canada. This begins the adventure of new coffee. Right, we got the roof tape on, sealed it with the last bit of Gorilla Tape. And hopefully that's gonna keep us through till Maryland. I did find a used Coleman Parts place in Maryland. They have a front panel for a different camper that doesn't have lights, but we're gonna give it a try. Last day in Boston, and we are headed to see the USS Constitution. Except that we took a wrong turn, and you can't get there from here. But we found Paul Revere's Landing, He actually rode across onto the Somerset's guns before he started his midnight ride. And then we made our way up to Bunker Hill, where the giant monument stands, 1843, erected for this Revolutionary War battle, which was kind of a defining point. It was the first major engagement between the British and American troops after Lexington and Concord. And the British, of course, took the hill, but at a very high cost that proved American soldiers would be able to put up a fight. And then it was off to Gloria's cousin's house, where we got to see the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, where our children's second cousins attend to become merchant marines. And the Kennedy, enormous ship, was setting out as a training ship, and we got to see all the freshmen on board in their yellow hats going out for their 4-day introductory tour. And after the ship was away, we got to see the training facilities at the university, as well as the bridge simulator, where they can put you in any of 300 different ships, and then with these projectors on top, they can simulate 43 different harbors, and you can practice real-life approaches or interactions with other ships as you train to be a deckhand or a captain. And then we got some recreation as well, as our cousins took us out on the jet skis to our own little stretch of sand, and the kids got to dig in it as much as they wanted, and it was quite relaxing just to stay at their house and really come and sit and enjoy. And then it was off to the Mystic Seaport Museum, where we got to see what a sea town was like in the mid-1800s.
Got to see the name of the ship with the radio.
They had an incredibly detailed miniature version of what Seaport would have looked like in its heyday. And they also had a ship being repaired in the dock. And this is a recreation of a ship that first settled in Delaware. And apparently the Delaware fourth graders get to go out in it. But after all that education, what the kids will mostly remember are the mini golf course and the giant slides at the KOA. The next day started at the U.S. Submarine Force Museum. And while the Nautilus, the first nuclear submarine, was not tourable, we were able to look at it from afar and tour the museum and learn a lot about submarine warfare in the United States. And then it was off to the Mystic Aquarium, where we started at the Sea Lion Show. But we really came so that Thomas could come face to face with his childhood favorite animal, the penguin. And they had keeper talks, and Thomas got to ask all of his questions, and the penguins even answered back.
Wait, please.
And Titus got to see one of his favorite childhood animals, whales, belugas, quite a bit smaller than the blue whales. And Thomas came home with a friend.